Hello, lovely. Today we're going to talk about blocks. Writer's blocks, magic blocks, blocks to God. Really specifically, the block that comes up that feels completely insurmountable. Like you've been broken away from a piece of yourself that perhaps you once relied on. If you watched my last video, you will know that I have recently reconnected with my fiction writing. A piece of my identity that I thought that I had lost completely when I went through a divorce about 10 years ago. What you may not know is that 10 years before that, when I got into the marriage that ended in divorce, I also had lost touch with something very, very important to me, and that is my relationship with God. When I went through the divorce, I found my way back into this relationship. Really what happened was I found myself in a space where I could turn around and open my eyes and see that God had always been there. But what it felt like was reconnecting to something that I'd lost. And I found myself back to my magic practice at that time too, after over a decade of being an incredibly staunch atheist who would only believe in the things that I could see and touch and taste in this world, in this 3D world. Finding my way back to writing has been a very similar kind of experience for me. It takes a world that looks one way, that has these particular dimensions in it, and then it enhances everything. It makes everything more vibrant. It makes everything mean more. Just like when I found my way back to God, when I found my way back to my magic, it made everything in my life mean that much more, have that much more depth and gravity. Because writing, in and of itself, is an act of creation, is an act of communing with God, with divinity, is an act of magic. It is creating something out of nothing. It is taking what's up here and manifesting it into the physical world, into something different than what was there before. You once had a blank page and now you have a story. You once had a cursor blinking at you and now you have this thing that can bring emotion out of a stranger. You once had a kitten and now you have a cat. He's getting so big. The 10 years where I wasn't able to write fiction, I guess we can call it writer's block. And the years before that where I wasn't talking to God and wasn't practicing magic, we can call that magic block. We can put this particular label on these experiences of blockage. And I know that for many people, myself included, writer's block of any degree, whether it's 10 years, 10 days, 10 hours of trying to work your way through a story and not being able to get anywhere, can be really, really painful. And the same can be said for feeling a block between yourself and God. But the thing that I want to illuminate here is that a block of this kind is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's actually really, really positive. I spent 10 years not writing fiction, but I did a shitload of other things. Some that I was particularly good at, like coaching, some that I was not so good at, like trimming weed, but I spent 10 years pursuing other avenues of who I thought that I could be. If I had still been so focused on writing fiction, I wouldn't have been able to have those experiences. And I wouldn't have had that kind of space between myself and my writing. I think the same can be said for my relationship with God. Without that 10 years where I was very much based in the physical world and that's it, it allowed space for something else to germinate. It allowed space for healing and things to be let go of. This is important. That space allowed for a redefinition of the relationship. And with that redefinition of the relationship grew so much deeper. If you find yourself in one of these fallow periods where you are not able to access your magic, it feels flat, it feels distant, it feels like it's not doing anything, or when you go to practice, it feels false, feels strange, or you sit down at your notebook or your computer and you try to write the words and they just won't come, or they come and they feel like pulling teeth. I want you to allow yourself to just spend a little time in the nothingness, in the emptiness, in the loneliness, in the yearning. Yearning is such a powerful emotion. It's such a sweet emotion. It's painful at times, especially when it feels like something that was so close to you has been yanked away, whether that's a person or a practice or whatever. I know yearning can hurt a lot, and it is also super fucking potent. It helps you to define what it is exactly you are yearning for, what it is exactly you want, if you give it the chance. And the only way to allow it to teach you is to give it space, to sit back and let yourself really feel the full thing. This can be said for any emotion, but right now, within the space of feeling blocked, within the space of feeling disconnected, go all the way into it. Let yourself just kind of fall apart. Let that identity that's gummed up with this thing start to shift, start to crumble. When I went through my divorce, my identity, it got demolished completely. I considered myself an objectivist. If you know, you know. I was a wife. I was an atheist. I was a homeowner. I had all these different things in place that for a long time had helped me feel safe and helped me feel secure, but had also hidden me from myself. When the divorce happened, all of that fell away. My job, my friend circle, my living situation, the way that I thought of myself. I got back in touch with God. And can you imagine? Okay, 10 years of saying there is no God so vehemently that even when I met my husband, he wasn't a hardcore Christian, but he still believed in God, and I just worked on him until that kind of broke away. And I know that wasn't, I can't take complete credit for that. He's a human being who has agency as well, and I know that I leaned really hard on there is no God, there is nothing. And that impacted his faith. That impacted how he saw the world as a whole. 10 years later, to literally feel my soul moving in my body, to feel God moving in my body, to start getting these messages from the universe, I thought I was going insane. I thought I was going insane for a good year and a half. And it didn't help that I was doing a lot of psychoactive drugs at that point in time. But the two are certainly connected. Things like mushrooms and acid and MDMA, they can open the door to those experiences, kind of a shortcut. And I'm not being a proponent of that on this channel, but it is a thing to have in your consciousness, to know of, that those things can make spirit more apparent, for sure. Oh my God, that's a whole fucking video, isn't it? Like, like the very fundamental core of my identity shifted completely. Everything that I knew was gone. And when I found my way back to my writing, that identity that had been so attached to my writing before no longer existed. And so I had to reconnect with it in a new way and to disconnect it from these old ideas that I'd had of it. And because of that, the connection is much deeper. Same with when I rediscovered God 10 years ago. Before that, when I was a kid, I had a pretty good relationship with God, I'd say. Not with the church, for sure, but with God. Like, I used to speak in tongues. I practiced magic from a very young age. The connection was real. And I was also a child. I was very immature. A lot of the things that I was doing was motivated from that place of immaturity, from that place of not knowing myself, really, trying to gain some kind of control over things. Yeah, I was not operating from a place of wholeness and integrity there. So 10 years ago, when I found it again, when I started practicing magic again, or really experiencing and moving and living with magic again, my goal has not been to control other people or control situations, but to know myself more deeply. And because of knowing myself more deeply, the magic itself is way stronger. And I'm able to see these really huge, incredible things happen in my life. Like this being one of them. Being here in Dubai. Being married to the best man in the world. Like, that's all come because of magic. I manifested him hardcore. So coming back to this fallow feeling, this disconnected feeling, this empty feeling, it's there for a reason. It's there so that something that wasn't working correctly, something that wasn't aligned anymore within you can fall away. And maybe it's part of the story that you're working on. Maybe you took a wrong turn 1,000 words ago or a couple chapters back. Or if it's with your magic, maybe there's something that you've been utilizing as a practice that doesn't serve you anymore, that doesn't actually support you anymore. So take this time to just lean back and kind of take an eagle-eyed view of your practice, of your writing, of your creativity, of whatever this is that you're having trouble with. And see if you can start to just gently and lovingly tease out what isn't working. So that when you do come back to it, and you will come back to it, I promise, you will come back to it. It will come back to you. When that happens, you will be in a place where you can reconnect from a more grounded, more informed, more mature status. And in doing so, have an even richer relationship moving forward. Have an even deeper touch with God, with your writing, with creativity. It absolutely will happen if you give it the time and the space. And if you allow yourself to let go of something that may feel really important in the moment. It may feel really important, but I promise you, if you let it go, you're gonna find something better. Whether it's a ritual with your writing, or maybe it's your morning routine, and you have a specific set of things that you do in the morning, like you draw a tarot card and then you journal about it and you light a candle and you do breath work. Like, kind of just let that stuff lie for a little bit and feel it into, is this really the thing that I want to be doing? Oh my God, that you want to be doing. Does it feel fun? Are you drawn to it? Because if you're not, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot, regardless of what it is, regardless of how many gurus or like people on YouTube or shamans or whatever have told you this is what you have to do. If you do not feel drawn to it, if you are not tapping into your desire when you work with this thing, let it go. Try something else. There is no one routine, there is no one ritual, there is no one approach to any of this stuff that fits everyone or that fits you for all time. Things move, things shift, things change, just like nature, just like the seasons. The tree doesn't hold on to its leaves because it's used to having the leaves. It lets it go so that the cycle can begin anew, so that something new can come through. Allow yourself to do the same. And within all of that, let those emotions come through. Whatever emotions want to come through. Grief may very well be one of them. Joy, curiosity, sadness, anger. Let it all come through and express it in as many ways as you can. I find that dancing and music tend to be particularly helpful when expressing emotions, which reminds me I need to pump up my anger playlist and let myself express some of that. So that'll be fun. When you're feeling these things, if you tamp them down, that's just going to prolong the fallow period, because that is your connection to the creative act, that is your connection to magic, is through emotions. So let them flow so that everything else can flow as well. Have you ever felt this kind of disconnection between magic or your writing, your creativity, and how have you navigated that block? Or if you're in it right now, either way, share your story in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And as always, use your voice. It is the only one you have, and we need it.